Welcome everyone, I'm Adam.
In this problem, we're going to be finding the center, vertices, foci, and the equations of our asymptotes of the hyperbola given by the equation y plus 6 squared over 1/9 minus x minus 2 squared over 1/4 equal to 1. So to start with, finding the center, vertices, foci, and even the equation of the asymptotes all relies on knowing our basic numbers are a, b, c, and h's and k's, which we can get, at least start by getting, by putting our equation in standard form. And if you look at it, we're almost there. Just going to rewrite it a little bit. So we'll take this and rewrite it so it's perfectly in standard form. We'll have, instead of y plus 6, say y minus negative 6 quantity squared over 1/9, which we can write as 1/3 squared minus x minus 2 squared over 1/4, which we can write as, say, 1/2 squared. And that's equal to 1. All right. So taking a look at that, we have our k, we have our h, and then we even have, say, our a's and our b's. So a is 1/3, and b is equal, say, to 1/2. Now, before we get started, let's go ahead and find the center, which is the first thing that we want, and from that we can build on the other things. So our center, right, so the center is at hk, so our center point is simply going to be at x equals 2 and y equals negative 6. Okay. And while we're at it, we're going to go ahead and graph this point. So we'll come over here and graph our center point. So x equals 2, y equals negative 6. So right about here, okay, is our center point. Now, what can we do to build up from that to find the other things? Well, we have our center. We want to find the vertices. We know that the vertices, based on the way the equation is written, since we have a vertical transverse axis, the vertices are going to be above and below our center point, and we're going to go up and down distance a. So from our center point, if we go up 1/3 and down 1/3, that'll get us our vertice points. So going up 1/3, just kind of eyeballing this a little bit, say up 1/3 from negative 6 and down 1/3 from negative 6, we'll put our vertices right about here, and we'll call this point x equals 2, and just for convenience, right, negative 6 plus a positive third, or minus a third in distance-wise, will give us negative y-coordinate of negative 5 and 2/3, and going down 1/3, putting our point right about here, right, we'll have x-coordinate 2 and y-coordinate, say, negative 6 1/3. Okay, now let's go ahead and label those over here, just to keep track of everything. Okay, so our vertices, right, are going to be at points. Now, here we're going to write it in improper fraction, just so we can write it two different ways. So we have 2 and negative 5 2/3, or negative 17/3, and we have 2 and negative 6 1/3, or 2, and would be, say, negative 19/3. So there's our vertices. Okay, so the next thing we want is the foci. Now again, going back, looking at our center point, we know that the foci are the points starting at the center going up and down on our transverse axis by a distance of c. And so c, we can find by our relation that c squared is equal to, say, a squared plus b squared, right? Which from our original equation, we know a squared is 1/9 plus b squared is 1/4. So 1/9 plus 1/4, getting some common denominators here, we're going to have, say, 4 over 36 plus 9 over 36, which is going to give us, say, 13 over 36, and that's c squared. And that'll imply taking the square root that c is equal to square root of 13 over 36, or equal to, say, the square root of 13 over the square root of 36, which is just 6. Okay, so there's our value of c. Again, how's that going to help us with the foci? Well, our foci, right, are the points at our center going up or down the value of this c. So these are going to be the points with x value 2 and y value, say, -6 plus c, or plus root 13 over 6, and x value 2 and -6 minus c, or minus root 13 over 6. So we'll just go ahead and leave these in exact form. As they said, we could find the decimal approximations, but we're not really going to need them in our graphing, so we'll just leave them as they are. Okay, so what do we have? We have center, vertices, foci. The last thing we need is the equations of our asymptotes. So we have a vertical transverse axis, so we know that the equations of our asymptotes are going to look like y equal to, say, k plus or minus a over b times x minus h. So we're just going to plug in our values here and see what the equations of these two lines are. Then once we have that, we'll have enough that we can start graphing our hyperbola. So let's first take a look. Right. Let's take a look at y equal to, say, the plus. So k, which is -6, say, plus a over b, so plus 1/3 divided by 1/2 times x minus h, or x minus 2. So that's going to give us, say, -6. 1/3 divided by 1/2 is plus 2/3 times x minus 2. Okay. And that's going to be -6 distributing the 2/3. So -6 plus 2/3 x, and 2/3 times -2 will be say, 4/3. And lastly, cleaning this up, taking -6 minus 4/3, so 4/3 being 1 1/3, we're going to have the equation as 2/3 x, say, minus, we'll just write it as 7 1/3. Right, it's a good little user-friendly form since we're about to graph this. So there's one of the equations of our asymptotes. And let's look at the next one. So we'll take y equal to k, or -6, minus, again, a over b we know is 2/3. So -6 minus 2/3 times x minus 2. That's going to give us, so -6 distributing the -2/3, -6 minus 2/3 x, -2/3 and -2 is plus 4/3. And this is equal to, we have -2/3 x, and then -6 plus 4/3, or plus positive 1 1/3, would give us a minus, say, 4 2/3. So that's the second equation of one of our asymptotes. So now what we're going to do is we're going to graph the asymptotes in and then use that to complete the sketch of our hyperbola. So using these equations, well, we already have one point that both lines will go through, namely the center point. So all we really can need to use these for is the maybe y y-intercepts. If we look at that, we can see where the asymptotes will cross the y-axis to get our second points and then sketch them in. So let's focus on this one here. Y equals -2/3 x minus 4 2/3. So minus 4 2/3, right about here. So minus 4 2/3, so we have a y-intercept point there. So our asymptote will look something like this, going through that y-intercept and our center point. And next one, look at our other equation, 2/3 x minus 7 1/3. So minus 7 1/3, right about here, as the y-intercept of that asymptote. And so we'll draw that in, and it'll look something like this. Okay, so we have our asymptotes and the center point and our two vertices. So really all we have to do is know that the hyperbola is going to skate along these asymptotes going through the vertices. So the top part, it looks something about like this, going through our vertice, going along the asymptotes. And the bottom point, or sorry, bottom part, same thing, going along our asymptote, through our bottom vertice, and along the other asymptote. So there we have the graph of our hyperbola given by our original equation, y plus 6 squared divided by 1/9 minus x minus 2 squared divided by 1/4 equals 1. Thank you very much.